Okay, today we're talking about the Lumenier RX5GDR. It's a diversity receiver. It's been a while since my videos because, well, my daughter Hazel and family is taking up a lot of my time, and editing these videos, they take longer than shooting them, right? So with this one, I'm going to try something different where it's just one take. You get all the background noises of family life, and we will just cover exactly what is needed to do this. So this is the unit. I was excited to try it, and I've given it some good test sessions, and this is going to go over generally what is good and bad about it, and what comes in the box. So this is the unit. It's really small. It's kind of like the size of a cell phone. Of course, much thicker. The cool things is if you have any adapters for holding onto phones, they also work. So if you want to attach that onto a tripod, that way it's a good option for that because it's a small unit and it's really light. So aside from that, what comes with the kit is the wire harness for the video out. And they can go into the diversity, or you can tap into each antenna separately. So if you wanted just the antenna A, then you go into here. And if you wanted the antenna B into there, and if you want the full diversity, so it switches between the two antennas, then you would go into there. And the connection is pretty good. Where the connection suffers is the second supplied cable, which is not this one actually. It comes with this, and you can already see that it's got a bend in it because the connection is very loose and it doesn't sit very firm. You can see that it sticks even out a little bit, and it's very jiggly. And the first release of these modules actually had a problem where it would disconnect the power from the jiggle. Now, I've got the second release, and it's fixed a lot of the issues. So I'm going to hook it up to a power source, and I'll show you exactly that at least that issue has been fixed. So, the wire that it does come with, it comes with the plug that fits into the receiver, and then just bare bone wire right here. So I've soldered it onto another adapter, and I'll explain to you why I did that in a second. Just gonna do one thing at a time, so show you that the power switch has been fixed. So I'm just making the connections here. It can be kind of disorganizing when you're just sort of on the desktop here. Okay, so let's do that again. So we're going to power it up. And here we go. Now I'm going to... Oh, actually, see? It actually did disconnect at that point, just by a little bit of a jiggle. But not reproducible right now, but that... Oh, there we go again. So yeah, I take it back. The issue has not been fixed, where it's still a very sensitive weak point on this module. So if you have it on a base station and the wire can be moved around, potentially you could lose signal, right? The way I have it is I have it strapped down the wire as well, so it should fix that situation. But you know, in hindsight, looking at it now, I'm probably going to take it apart and get rid of this port altogether and just hardwire in my power to like an XT60 or, you know, a Dean's or something, right? So aside from having to use this really bad battery connector there, I'll do that instead. So enough about that issue. Since it has been not resolved, it is still something that is not so great. So how this receiver will connect to your goggles, because I was actually really curious about that too. So these are my Dom V2 goggles, and it's currently got the Next Wave RF in there. So on the other side, you're given the AV input and of course your power port for the battery that goes in. So in your Dominator box, you should have been given another set of cables, and that's the cable on that end. And on the other end are these two, and it conveniently goes into there. So you would supply the power and you would get the video coming from the Lumenier. So as soon as you plug this in, and when your power for your module is turned off, the image that you will see is what's coming from this receiver. So that's how you make the connection on the goggle side. Now on the other side, you're going to be using this breakout cable. So audio left, audio right, and the video goes in. Now you have this, which goes into your diversity out. Now you would use a power pack. I use a 6000 milliamp 2 cell, and this is from my rock crawler, so it's got the Deans. So using the other really bad, actually no, that's not, okay, sorry, I'm getting a little confused here. So this is the really bad AC adapter port, so that goes in there. Now the reason why we've got two of these at the end of the Dominator breakout is that one is taking in the power and the other is sending the power. So also in your Dominator box, you should be given a barrel connector with a bare end. So what I've done is I've attached Deans to the other end. So this makes the battery connection, and this supplies the power to the goggle, and this other end is going to supply the power to your receiver, and that makes the final connection. And as you can see, it powers up. So that's how the connection is made, and if you set up all your wires right, they'll all sit nice in one bundle like that. So we got the video, the audio, power to the receiver, and power to your goggles, which also feeds up to the receiver. So that is the connections. Now in terms of these controls here, what's also funny is, and a complaint, is that no instructions at all, right? Inside the box, no instructions, not even a channel guide. I had to go on to Get FPV site, and they were nice enough to post the simple button controls and the chart for the channels. Hazel, hey! Are you enjoying Appa's little show on this receiver? Or are you enjoying the blueberries? Okay. Now, let's see what these buttons do. There's a band and channel, and similar to their VTX, if you click it once, you will cycle through the channels of that particular band. Okay? If you hold it down for about 2 seconds, you'll see that currently it's in the race band, but it's going to change. And now it's on the E band. So that's how you do it. The really cool thing is if you have a bunch of racers in your club and you want to search for the strongest channels, you can do that. And I wasn't ready to show that feature, but I'll show you. Maybe I could do it with no VTX powered up. You hold this search button down for about 2 seconds. And see, it's going into a mode where, okay, sorry, my finger tapped this port, and again it's restarted. So definitely it's a problem, and I'm going to have to mod mine. am going to continue to use this receiver. Hold down search, and it's going into the search mode, and it's going to go through this every single channel, every single band, and it's going to program in your strongest signals. And I've tested this with friends flying, and it actually worked pretty well. It's going to go through it several times to find it, and when it's finished, I'm going to cancel this. It's going to go... Actually, you can't cancel it. Okay, so I'm just going to unplug it. So when it's finished, it's going to go back to this main screen, and you can hit the search button once and keep switching through the strongest signals it found. And it's actually pretty convenient. I've really enjoyed this feature. The only complaint in this interface is changing the bands is really slow because you have to hold it for like 2-3 seconds. And I wish they spent the extra money to add a band button instead. No. The Sesame Street character in the garbage is Oscar. Yeah. Where do you see the character that she's saying? Oh, on the diapers. Okay, so now we're going to cover the what I call the flaw, and I've been telling all my friends and pilot friends, the flaw of this unit, and it's a big one. It really is, because we do a lot of parkade flying, and it affects that sort of flying the most. So today, before we get into that, today I had this set up on my base station, on the tripod, and on top of my car, and I was able to fly like farther than I've ever done just with, you know, a built-in module on the goggles, even with just, you know, a patch with your head aimed strategically right into place for maximum distance. Even with all that, I was still able to get a better range and cleaner signal throughout. Now, the main issue, well, okay, there's actually two main issues. So the first issue is this module, which, by the way, is the best Dominator module that you can get. The video from this is so clean, and the colors are so dynamic. It's got really good darks, really good brights, and it's really nice. This one, right away you're going to notice as soon as you plug into this one versus on your module, because you can even switch between them using the power button, power switch on your goggle, you will notice like it's significantly brighter. Not in a good way, it's just like really washed out white. So using your contrast and brightness, you have to tweak it down. But what happens is, I could never get the image on this unit looking as good as the Next Wave. And the best image you can get from it, it's much compressed. The whites are very, like, I would say it's very contrasted, where the whites are very white and the darks are sort of muddled and very dark. And it's sort of in a neutral, like, mid-range color spectrum. And I apologize because I would normally be able to like hook it up to the goggles and record on the DVR. The DVR on my goggles are broken now. I'm not blaming any module that I modded to try to use on my goggles, and anyone who's ever followed my videos or my activity on Facebook probably knows the sort of path I've gone with goggles recently. But the DVR portion of these goggles are broken. It does not work, and I'm not going to blame in any direction the cause of it. I do use my goggles a lot. I do use DVR a lot. It's one of the main advantages of having a Dominator, that you've got a built-in DVR system. But I don't have that access right now, which makes me want to buy new goggles, but at the same time I'm like, hey, like, it still works. Maybe I'll just buy another DVR unit. So for that, I can't show you side-by-side comparisons. And does that make it a crappy video? Well, not really, because like the meat of it is what I'm saying, right? So you can go out and you can test it yourself if you really have to see side by side. The image quality on the Next Wave is superior than on this unit. So that's strike number one, but for me that wasn't the deal breaker. What happened is when I was flying this down in the parkade, the second flaw, which is the more important flaw, came about. And this is that if you have objects blocking the path of your antenna, this receiver freaks out, and instead of the signal just getting really staticky, it will do like this weird double imaging. I'm not any expert in antennas, in radio frequencies, or anything like that. I only know what I can exhibit, like what I can experience through, you know, how I test these, and I fly them, right? And I fly them in the same situations I fly every other equipment. And this unit, when it starts to get not a low signal, but a blocked signal. So you're flying along and there's a concrete pillar. As soon as you pass that pillar, this receiver will freak out and you will get like a ghosting image going back and forth between two. It's almost like it's getting a lag signal. Like as it's going through the concrete, it's like doesn't see what it should. It gets a low signal output, and it sort of takes a frame before it and afterwards, and it sort of tries to make something, and you get this weird jittering effect. And it's enough that I can't fly it in the parkade because I'm going so fast that even a split second of this weird jittering movement throws me off and I go crashing. And it's just not usable. So what happened was in the parkade, I usually fly a very small circuit, and I've been flying a 25 milliwatt. And for me, I really like that setup. So for me right away when I was testing it, and I saw that jittering movement, I thought something was wrong with my setup. I'm like, it could not be this receiver. I'm not quick to blame something that I don't know anything about. So I'm like, oh, maybe I damaged my VTX when I was doing some repairs the night before. So I had automatically thought that this VTX was faulty. So that night I was grounded. I couldn't fly. So my friends, they were able to patch in using their dominators and this receiver. And I asked them like, hey, are you getting that same weird like jittering double image motion? And they weren't. So that concluded the fact for me that it's my VTX. So that night I went home and I took apart the quad and I tested several different VTXs. And this is like an Immersion 200. And strangely enough, the 200 also had the same effect. And I tried a different 200 milliwatt from Lumenier, and that the same thing. But then what I noticed was I was testing everything. I thought maybe the SMA port on these VTXs was faulty. I tried different antennas. But as I was putting my hand near the antenna, when it blocked the signal, I got that weird motion. So then I tried a 600 milliwatt VTX, and I tried the same, blocking the signal. With this one, because the output is so powerful that this one wasn't affected as much. So the only conclusion I could find was that with this receiver, when it receives a blocked signal, like you're going behind a tree or behind a concrete, this receiver doesn't know what to do with that very low output. And instead of it just getting staticky or the image getting kind of faint like we're used to, it just completely jitters between like two frames or something. It's really odd, and it's enough for you to crash. And so then the next day I went out and I flew a big open field with no trees and of course no jittering motion. That was perfect, and I was able to get really amazing distance. Now granted, you know, it could be that if you have a type of flying that doesn't require trees or obstacles or concrete or buildings, then this receiver could be good for you. It's a good price. It's got good features. So someone maybe flying like a sailplane or just really gentle airplane flying or a wing, or even if you're a quad flyer that is not into serious sort of like obstacle flying, then this receiver could be good for you. I'm not going to sell it. Like anything I have on this channel, it's all stuff that I buy, and I don't feel good even reselling it to someone unless I'm going to substantially drop my price for it, which it's not worth it because it's already such a cheap unit. I bought this for $78 Canadian, and what is that, like $20 US? And for me to flip it and sell it to someone with the limitation of it not being a very good obstacle receiver, I could probably, sell it for $10 or something. And for me, that's not worth it. It's always nice to have another receiver to power another set of goggles for even a spectator, right? So that is this receiver in a nutshell and its problem. When it passes by blocked signals, like concrete, trees, walls, whatever, this receiver, instead of it just getting a very low signal and try its best to show it to you, it freaks out. And that freaky, jittery motion, it's enough and that it's just not going to work. So with this, you either get a really clean signal or you get something that is completely unusable. And it's unfortunate. I had lots of hope for this receiver, and it's not going to be good enough for what I need it. If I'm just going to go out into an open field, then yeah, I recommend it that way. But save your dollars, get another receiver for a base station. So this will start my quest to find the receiver that I do want, because I'm enjoying having a base station. And hopefully I'll do another video on what the next receiver is going to be. If you have any recommendations on the best receiver on a fairly low budget system, of course this isn't going to be like the best base station out there, but something that's small, something that's portable for someone to go fly in different locations and for minimal setup. And I know there's a lot of setup involved in hooking up to a tripod and getting the wires, and I'm all for that. But if I have to lug around like 3 or 4 different components and power boxes and stuff, then of course that's not for me, because I'm looking for something to replace a goggle module, because I'm sort of tired of in-goggle modules. And today, when I had the base station on top of my car with the best height for the signal, for the first time, it was like I had nothing to worry about the video. I knew that I could count on the video signal for reaching far and clear. And yeah, I was flying this receiver, and I knew the limitation of the obstacles, so I didn't go behind any trees and such. But it was a great first taste into a base station type of FPV mini quad flying, and I'm excited for the next one. So that's it. That's this video and the new format where less editing, all shot with no cleanup of my station. This is normally how my station looks during work, and it can be a mess. And I think that's a good thing, right? And oh, Hazel's finished her lunch, and I believe she's over there playing, so we'll leave that over there. So that's the Lumenier RX5GDR diversity receiver. Not worth your money. Thank you.